It's time for Dads Without Dads, a platform created for men who are determined to become the dads we never had. My guest today is a songwriter, instrumentalist, performer, touring artist, and several other things that we will be finding out shortly. His name is Abel Chungu Musuka. Hello.
Hey, what's up, man?
How you doing?
I'm good. How's it going?
It's going good. How's it going for you?
Very chilled.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
What did I
I'm
leave
finally
out?
happy to be here.
Yeah.
Oh, what did you leave out? Fellow dad.
Oh yeah. That's the
Yeah,
most important
yeah,
part,
man.
actually.
Just a guy who I would say like the biggest thing is I'm a child of God, so at least to be loved is a nice thing.
Yeah. I'm glad to finally have you
Yeah.
here because I think I've been pushing for this. Like, when are you coming? When are you coming? When are you
man.
coming?
Yeah, we're just like,
Yeah.
when, okay, and then we meet for other things, and it's like the meeting, everything. Okay, when are we coming? But I'm so happy to be here. It's a very,
Yeah.
very nice podcast.
Thank you, man.
Very good one.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. I'm glad.
Mhm.
One of my favorite Abel Chungu songs is a song called My Father's Child.
Yeah, father's child.
How would you interpret that song? How
Oof.
would you break it down in a nutshell?
That would send me straight into the biggest story of my experience.
Okay, so we can keep it for
You want to
later.
know how I wrote it, or you just want to know what it means? Because how I wrote it is probably like the biggest
Okay.
experience.
Okay, so maybe we
But-
should go to just the significance of the song.
Yeah, I think the significances of the song stems from how I wrote it. It was so maybe we'll go straight right into it, and then it'll probably give you an opportunity. So when I had gone to I lived in Oklahoma for 2 years, so I hadn't been back.
Where is that?
Yeah, Oklahoma.
For the sake of someone who's hearing it for the first time.
Oklahoma is in the States, in an area called the Midwest. I was schooling there. I was at Bible college, a place called Rhema, and so I knew that. But at the time, my parents didn't have any money to sponsor me coming back for holidays. So during the summers, I had to just volunteer doing things. So I remember when I was leaving Zambia, my dad had a bit of health problems. So I was always worried that, if I go that long, will I be able to find him? And I remember at the airport, he said something very significant. He said, you'll find me. And even before graduation, there was a big health scare. My family, the doctor had said he'd only had a week to live. And there's a beautiful story there because I remember crying on the phone, and my dad was trying to get me ready, like in case if anything happens. And I went to this place to pray, and I just came back the next day. I called my dad and said, "Repeat after me. Say I'm healed." My dad says, "Oh no." As I say I'm healed, he says, "Okay, I'm healed." I said, "Say I'm whole." He said, "I'm whole." I said, "Say Jesus Christ paid the price 2,000 years ago." He said those words, and I said, "I won't call you for 3 days." And 3 days later, I called, and he was out of hospital. He was back home walking. He said after I prayed, he just felt the strength to get up. And so when I came back to Zambia, I found my dad. So it was June of 2009. And so my dad and I had I would say like a good relationship. We're big. We were very transparent in the sense of between him and I. At some point, and I'll share a bit of why that was. And I good thanks to one of my youth leaders when I was a teenager who really challenged us. But fast forward to November 22nd. So it was a Sunday morning, and my dad would always go for the evening service, right? So that morning I'm going to church because I'm singing in church. So the first two services, and I'm leaving the house with my mom, and then my dad just goes. The last thing I heard him say was, "Mushtireko newspaper, buy me a newspaper." For
Okay.
those who don't speak Bwembya. And so I'm at church, I'm singing. And so my mom went shopping because she'd come for the evening service with my dad. So apparently, when just in between one service to that, so first service ends, find missed calls on my mom, and I call my mom like, "What?" She goes, "Can you come home? There's something wrong with your dad." So I get one of the pastors, and I told my pastor, I'm like, I can't sing in the second service. There's something wrong. So my pastor, Pastor Walker, shout out to him, and he said, "Oh, take one of the associate pastors. They'll drive you to home and then see what happens." So we get there, and so I rush and I find my mom is on the floor in their bedroom, and she's like, "Help me lift him up." My dad had collapsed. He had his arms like this over his chest. So, one of the things that hits you is you've never seen your father in a weakened state.
Ah, yeah.
It messes you up, man. Like you don't know, like as a little boy, like everything about strength is in your dad.
Is in your dad,
Or whether it's a father figure.
superhero
Yes,
image.
exactly. So now your mom is telling you, help me pick him up. Like the first thing, I almost start crying. Then my mom's like, hey, I need you. So I'm like, okay. So we pick him up, and so we're driving to the hospital, and he's lying on my mom and her and I in the back seat. So, and he's cold, and you kind of know, but you want a different result. And we get there to the hospital, and unfortunately, they give us the news that unfortunately his pupils are dilated, and they're like, he's gone. It was a very bad time. I could not believe it. So because my dad had served in government, the state said, okay, he's gonna have a state funeral. So he died on a Sunday, and the funeral was now on a Thursday. So there was so many different people that came through during that period of time, and I remember even President Sata was there, but at the time I think Rupia Banda was president. Right. And so many different people, dignitaries, and everyone is sharing these stories of what it was like working with your dad and all these things. And I remember the one thought that I just had in my head, I'm like, man, I just want the dad I watched wrestling with. I'm a big wrestling fan, and my dad was a huge wrestling fan. So even the night before, I think we were watching like WCW. So it really hit home because you wanted the father you can laugh with, tell stories with, but everyone's like, oh, this great man. And yes, he was great and he achieved. And I'm sure it'll probably be the same if I ever pass and people come to my funeral. They'll be telling my kids about, oh, your dad was a musician and whatnot. But yeah. I'm sure like the things that my kids have enjoyed with me, it's like, oh no, we like the dad who laughed with us and took us.
Okay, yeah.
So that's the man I missed. And there was, so a week later, I reached a gas station, so I was going back to work, right? And I appreciate my workplace for giving me a week off, and I get back so I'm going back to work. So I stop by a filling station. I'm in a car, and then a guy comes and knocks on my window, and guess what he says? He goes, "Kaka, newspaper."
Yeah, trigger.
Ha! I started crying. You know that crying where I'm shaking. I couldn't move, man. It was so brutal. Like the guy,
the father's words,
the last
newspaper.
Yes. And then this guy, because that was even anyone who knew my dad. If you're coming, so tell me coming to visit him, he always tell you, oh, get me a newspaper. He loved reading, right? And so then I called my sister, Kazi at the time, and said, yo, I can't move. I think I'm paralyzed. And she goes, okay, where you come? So I pull the car over the gas station. Eventually I composed myself because I remember I was going to see his, so my dad's cousins with Mama Kankasa. So I was going to a house to drop off something, and then I was going to work. So after I visited, I'm composed and I get back to work, and again, I'm damaged. Then my sister goes, okay, why don't you go to my apartment and so my job gave me a day off, right? I was working for the church at the time. And so I get to my sister's apartment, and now I'm like ready to have a very intense conversation with God. Because now I'm like, Lord, how could you take my dad away from me? I've been away for all these years. I've only been back for a few months. And now I'm really, really arguing with God. I'm annoyed, right? And I remember the Lord said something to me that I'll never forget. That was very powerful. He said, you didn't lose your father. He said, I've always been your father. and every good thing that you saw in him was me loving you through him.
Ooh, that's deep.
Bruh.
That's deep.
I was like, yo. And it took me back to one of the earliest memories I'd had with my dad. We're sitting outside and he was telling me stories about him growing up. Chimwemwe, Kudaku,
Kitwe?
yes, he grew
Oh.
up in Kitwe. I forgot what the place was called. Started with a K, I think, something like that. But he was
Kafu.
still, yeah, it's sort of, so he used to go, it's just stories. And he's telling me, and in my head, and now I'm just building this whole image of this man is such an amazing man. And I remember telling him, like, Dad, you're so great, you're so amazing. And my dad,
You did tell him?
yes, I told him that. And I remember him saying this, and I was a kid. And he said, I don't know how my life will end. I said, I don't know. I can't say, I know you think I'm perfect, but I'm not. He says, but, and this was him. I don't think, at the time as a kid, I don't think I understand. But now I'm older, I'm like, oh, I understand. He says, I'm not perfect. I'm not good. He says, I can't even write a book about myself. Because I told him, you should write a book. I was like, I can't write a book about, because I don't know how it will end. Maybe to be you to write a book about me. So, and so when I saw that, that was the first time I think for me, I got a glimpse of imperfection in a father. And so when God said, it's me loving you through him, I realized the perfectness that I saw in my father was God's love. Because he was a believer and he loved God. But he had also made mistakes in his life, I'm sure, things that he has done. It's not that everyone liked him, but I came to realize any ounce of things that I valued and say, oh man, that was greatness. I always cherish that and say, oh, that was him when he allowed God to love me through him. And so that's so years about it, maybe a couple of months, a year later, one time I got up and it was his birthday. I remember it was now a year later, it was June 20th. And I got up and I was teary eyed and I started crying because I was listening to some song by Emily Sunday. And just his birthday made me sad. So I started writing. And that's how I wrote Father's Child.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's how I wrote Father's Child. From just that lesson, and I know it's a whole story.
I didn't realize
it
was that deep in terms of where you drew the inspiration to write the song. I did a short stint with Komboni Radio, and I used to do this morning gospel show where I would play some gospel music. And I would just go in these gospel folders, and for some reason, one day I just came across that song, and it became my favorite Abel Chungu song. And I would always play it in the morning. It would speak to me.
Yeah.
And I would get emotional whenever I would listen to it. I didn't really understand the context, but now I get why it has that emotional feel to it. It's such a deep, deep song.
Thank you.
Man. I love how you love your father even in his death.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've seen you write about your dad. I've seen you post pictures of you with him when you were a kid.
Yeah.
And now I understand that you sing about him.
Yes.
Even through understanding that it's God that loved you through your dad.
Yeah.
Let's learn more about Abel Chungu. Where were you born?
Yeah.
And how was your childhood? How would you describe your childhood and your family background?
Yeah, so I was born in Lusaka, UTH, contrary to popular belief.
I was about to say you look like a typical Mayadi kid. How?
But you have to understand, UTH was UTH back in the day. You gotta, well, no disrespect to UTH now, but it was the 80s. But the population has increased more, But otherwise, UTH. I was born in UTH. From the documents that I've seen. To parents. I'm the last born, at least in my family, and so growing up, I remember we grew up. I was born in Rhodes Park at the time, and I think the house that's there right now, from what I know, I might be wrong. It was the same house, I think, Irene Mambilimba.
Oh.
Yes. So it's just by the corner there of the Rhodes Park roundabout here. Yes. That's my childhood home. Okay. That is basically the house that I was born in. And my earliest memories, it was nice. I think back in the day, it didn't matter where you're from, right? And I liked that because one, my dad was also in government, so or there was an MP, so there would be so many people who'd come to the house, whether it was from the village, whether it was chiefs or different people, and we grew up in a house where you had to give up your bed, you shared everything that you had. Gawai save ni shani, you don't act. So we're always kept in line, in check. It wasn't like I don't know now. Maybe things have changed with no at my dad. What?
Things
But
have
maybe because
changed.
my dad was traditional in the way he conducted himself. It was very much like every elder has to be respected, right? My friend, even if you dare talk down on any elder, my friend, once they snitch to your parents, you're being beaten. So we had grown up with that respect. And two, we also I went to Jacaranda. So I went to Jacaranda. That's how I started my grade one. And I would say Jacaranda or government schools back then were a lot more different because it didn't matter where your kids were from. You would share, even if you said, no, the gardener or the maid, you're in the same class with their kids. Government schools are really like that. We all had the same education. When we went home, we all waited for ZNBC to start at 17 hours.
Yeah.
we all had the same conversations. It's not like it's only maybe later on when you're just like, oh no, KTV or Shani. Then to my story is that your friends are talking about a cartoon you haven't seen.
Can't relate. Yeah.
But if it was He-Man, we all watched it. If it was A-Team, we all watched it the night before. The conversations.
MacGyver was MacGyver.
Yeah, but the conversations amongst us when we're growing up, I think many of us who are millennials and Generation X or people before my time, just like maybe 70s, we all had similar stories or things we could talk about that we could relate with, right? If a new movie comes out, if you get it on cassette, somehow that tape will go around the whole neighborhood.
Yes.
Right, like I remember.
Everyone is watching Van Damme.
Someone finish. Wait, when are you bringing that? Me, I want to. Wait, could you have Van Damme? Either your friend will invite you or show up at the house. You're watching Rambo.
Yeah.
Like all the kids in the neighborhood, you're all watching together. And then you finish watching and then it gets sent down to the next house.
Yeah.
And then if it gets lost, you'll start tracing back the footsteps. Who had it? Who had it? I remember it happened with The Matrix as well. Like I remember,
Matrix.
So funny enough. I'll tell you, Matrix 1 came out and I'm back from school and I don't know why. I just found this. It didn't have a label. So I put it in and I'm like, this is The Matrix. How did you get The Matrix? So I didn't. I tell you, I won't even kid you. Half our neighborhood was in the house that day. Now we had moved to Kalundo. My parents had built the house. So that's the family home. So now half the neighbor, I'll never forget half the neighborhood of my sister's friends, my friends were all in the living room watching The Matrix for the first time.
Wow.
That's how people were so united. Like us, and those I think were the last times of dying days before people now became a little bit more, us who are from here, Shana from that, this and that. And so I would really but it was really nice. And then my father became an ambassador to the United Nations earlier on.
Okay. When he was MP, where did he serve?
So when he was MP, it was in Pika.
Okay.
Yes, he was in Pika. So
that's where he was from?
That's where basically we're from. So we're actually from the royal family. Okay. So Senior Chief Kopa is actually, I call him Batata traditionally, but he is actually my cousin.
Okay.
Yes. So we're from the royal family for my dad's line. And if you know, we're matrilineal. And so, right. So it was
about that on the Bwembya side.
Exactly. So we're Bisa by tribe.
Okay.
So my dad had served as an MP. And so he for years he was under UNIP. And then eventually he left UNIP, and wrote, I remember he said he wrote his resignation letter. And then he joined MMD.
Okay, when it was just starting.
When it was actually starting, one of my childhood memories was, there was prayers that used to happen at our house. They were that party was very much founded on a lot of prayer.
Yes, in readiness for the transition that was happening.
President Chiluba, before he was president, would come for prayers at our house. General Mianda would be at our house for prayers. They would be praying all night just for how the country, how it was going to be run, different things.
Wow.
I've been privy to so much
I
information.
guess that explains why the country was declared a Christian nation by that particular government.
Very much.
Like they prepared for that.
Yeah, very much. At the foundation of it, it was a very, Christ-centered group of people, because they also knew what the challenge was going to be. It was also those scary times. Even as a kid, you're kind of like, you'd hear things like the phone is tapped.
Superstition. Oh yeah.
Like the phone is tapped. Shani, you're driving in the car, my dad would be like, why is that car? That car, every time we turn, that car is behind us. We turn here, that car is behind us. Like,
the days of the vigilantes.
So I'm telling you. So it was like you're very much aware of some of these things even as you're growing up. So, but what ended up happening, my dad got posted to
United
Nations ambassador. So we're based in New York. So now we moved to New York with my family.
That's the same portfolio that RB once served in, actually, when he was much younger.
Yes, yeah. So there's two ambassadors. There's one ambassador to America, US, which is based in Washington. And then we have one to the United Nations. Yes. So my dad was to the United Nations when.
So the one. The Zambian ambassador to the US lives in DC.
Yes.
And the one to the UN is in New York.
Yes, in New York.
Hudson.
Exactly. So that's where our embassy is. And so it was very nice. It was very different. Because I think, a lot of people ask me, did you ever experience racism? I'm like, yeah. But and then it was different because we were very much Zambian in our culture, and my parents never let us divert from that.
Okay. So this is a part of your life that I didn't know, actually. So when your dad got that particular position to go to serve at the UN, did the family move to the US?
We all moved.
Okay.
Yes.
So you moved to the US much earlier, even before your college days.
Yes. So I moved. Yeah. So I moved there, and that's where my childhood, started developing that side. So we went to a school called Our Lady of Fatima. And
how old were you at this point?
I was about 6.
Okay.
Yeah, because I remember my 7th birthday being in the States. So I remember I was 6. So we moved there. It was a good time. I won't lie. Learned a lot of different things. Learned about different cultures. Because I think Americans, I don't know about now, but back they were very much. Even though when you're there, Americans are very much about where their origin is from. Like you meet an American, like I'm an Italian. But you're American, and they're very much
but they want to talk about coming from France.
Yes, exactly. So
that's true.
But when things go out, I'm an American.
I know, right?
So I'm just laughing, just poking. I still need a visa. So
me too.
So I always remember that. Like most of my friends, they tell you about where they're from, or they're Italian, or this and that. And so I guess maybe it was also that thing when you tell them like you're from Zambia.
Yeah. Yes. I was about to say that I think I experience it a lot when I mention where I'm from. They sound proud to be able to mention their background. Like my grandfather was from Germany.
Yes.
My father was from France. They want to know, but when they're talking about like anything that should show that patriotism or they need to protect something, they'll say American.
Yes. The pressure, maybe the pressure, the peer pressure. It was always nice. You realize this how much, again, at the same time, like I would be a storyteller, and I think I made so many different friends. Like I never saw the diversity or difference of culture because I think they liked my uniqueness, right? I think even earlier on I learned a lesson where I said I found it easier, and at the time, and I know sometimes especially like African Americans, where some from my friends take this as an offense, but I'm saying it in what I learned. I think I don't know why a lot of white people would want to know more about me. And then I wonder why the kids weren't playing a lot with the other African, like black kids.
Okay.
Who are African Americans. And I'd say like, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm from Africa or there's this. That's one thing I couldn't figure out even as a kid.
I still can't figure that out as well.
Yeah.
So I've had these experiences where I have white friends in the US, and sometimes they say you're different. Like they would say I'm different from like my fellow Africans.
Yeah.
Which I find interesting. Other times I'm asked, where did you go to school? Then I say, in Zambia. Like sometimes it's a bit unbelievable because maybe it's a stereotype.
Yes. I think because also from us, we are taught more, we know more about other countries.
Oh, yes.
Like
whereas for them, they know a lot about
the
US. Yeah.
Like geopolitics, even right now, you kind of like, you ask a Zambian, they'll tell you what's happening in American politics or Europe and Shani. And I think, but when you're there, it's like you're asking Americans sometimes about, oh, and so I would have so many stories because around my father, even as a kid, I kind of knew what was happening around the world.
Yeah,
like
even in the world of politics, you were interested in the current affairs.
Exactly. So even then, people were just like, he was like, what do you know? Tell us about this. And I'll be like, oh yeah, there's an just start talking. And the common question, of course, is how did you get here? So I start explaining, certain things. And I'm like, yeah, I know that I got on this plane, I got on that plane. So you guys have planes? I'm like, yeah, we have planes.
Oh, wow.
At that time, I was a kid. I didn't take it as an offense. Yeah. But I look back, I'm like, oh, you realize I kind of understood, okay. In America,
so did you literally experience the question? Have you lived like in the same neighborhood as like the lions? Have you seen?
I did. But it was the person who asked it was so sincere. It wasn't like, I'll tell you the one time I first experienced racism. So I don't think their questions were out of racism. I think they were just like, they were like so
innocently. Yeah,
it's like
asking.
Yeah, it's like a white person coming to and then moving to a village.
Yeah.
In Senanga or something like that. They're going to ask them some questions, which even the person's like, you guys don't know about this. But they're just like, yeah, we just don't know anything about your culture. You can tell us you're from Ireland. We don't know where Ireland is. We don't know what. Tell us about that, right? Yeah. So with me, I think they asked questions because all they saw, you have to understand, the documentaries back then, especially early 90s about Africa, was
the way they were depicting
these
Africa.
children are dying. Please send us $12 to save these children.
Yes.
I'm just like, what? So now you're from Africa and all they hear is send money to Africa. And now it's like, oh, you guys mean your dad has a Benz? Yeah, my dad. Like you kind of start doing, so it changes the narrative. But the first racism I ever experienced when I was a kid, there was a girl I had a big crush on called Christina. And I think whether it was grade 2 or grade 1. And I really liked that girl. I was like, it was a kiddie crush. And so she was white. And at the time, I didn't really, it didn't process to me whether someone was white or whatever. And then
people are just people.
Yeah. And then somebody, one of those things where you tell somebody you like somebody and then someone rushes and goes and tells them. And so you're kind of waiting for what she's going to say. And then I'll never forget.
So she went to consult.
Yes. So someone went and told her.
Yeah.
So now, and then I overhear her. She goes, so understand, when I was growing up, everybody called me Chungu.
Okay.
Oh, here's another thing. Abel only came much later on in life. So my full name, yes, is Abel Chungu Musuka. But everyone I grew up around, my family, my closest friends, calls me Chungu.
Makes sense.
But I will tell you, you'll find out how it became Abel. But Chungu was like thing. So, and I remember her telling her friends, I don't like Chungu because he's black.
Like, and then you look at
yourself. First time I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and it hit me so bad. And I was like, and I went and told my mom because I was hurt. And I was like, yo, mom, like, this girl I really like. And I told my sister, and I was like, no, you have to talk to. So my mom came to the school and talked to the principal. And then they called Christine's mom. Now, because they had zero tolerance for racism. And I remember her mom questioning, like, wait, why would you say that? Like, it's not about liking me, but it's like, why would you have racist thoughts about So what is it about him being black? And she was failing to answer. Maybe years later on as an adult, I'm like, Yeah, it's probably their parents. Because why would a 7, 8 year old have racist thoughts? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, but that's the thing. So that was the first time I realized, oh, okay, so there is this thing that somebody might not like you. And then now you start kind of being more aware. I remember one time I was playing basketball with this white kid, and so he was beating me. So I'm like, oh, basketball was never my sport.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I thought you guys were better because
you're black.
Oh, now I'm just like, I'm starting to pick it up. Now I'm starting to pick it up. I'm like, oh, okay, this
keeps coming up.
And I just said, no, I'm better at soccer. And after that, so I start realizing there was this idea of what black people were supposed to be, blackness, this and this. And which also which reminds me of a moment, like it takes me back to when I was a kid. Now, I think then I started becoming a bit aware of the stigma of white people. This is where it affected me negatively. There was a moment. So the first time I grew my hair when I was younger, my mom would allow us to have froze. So one time, I think it might have been summer wet. So my mom did cornrows for me and my brother, right? Like did cornrows. And they were really nice. But I remember walking into a shop, and I saw white people. And I immediately started undoing them.
Why is that?
Because I was afraid about how they were going to see me.
Uh-oh.
I now started becoming more aware of, how white people look down on the stereotype of black people. And I remember my older brother, Damien, he got mad at me. He's like, why would you do that? No, and I couldn't interpret it. But later on, I came and understood. It was the understanding that black people with dreads or black people with twisted hair, that's dirty. Right? Even the origin of why they call dreadlocks is because it was perceived as, white people say, they're dreadful.
Oh, something you dread.
Yeah, it was not good.
It had a negative connotation.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
It's not perceived as something good. So there's many times where even just a lot of workplaces are would accept a woman who has a weave over a woman who has natural hair. So the perception of blackness is you have to present yourself a specific way, right? You have to be in a certain way that's acceptable to Western culture. So then people are like, oh yeah, no, now you're good, right? So even sometimes I see, if even I start keeping my hair, people are like, oh, now you look like someone who smokes weed. Who told you? But what about revolutionaries or people with intelligence? What about every person who has a degree, right? So we still have a lot of things. And I remember if it could be instilled into me at age 7, 8, then, imagine what the ideas that we've grown up, with the understanding of what we perceive ourselves now. Are we who we really are, or are we a byproduct of every safe mechanism of our lives? Like, I shouldn't dress like this. If I dress like this, it will make people. If I look like this, it'll make people uncomfortable.
And those things have really limited us in terms of what we could have achieved in life.
Exactly. And so but I understand. I understand culture. I understand things. Back to my dad. I remember even just him when we were growing up. He would say things So I remember the first time we almost, even just dyeing your hair, things I've done. If you've seen me dye my hair, I remember that was a problem in Zambian community. So, but I understood because I grew up in a house where my dad was like, dye your hair? Oh my gosh. It's wild. Wear earrings? Oh, my friend, you are. So one time...
Because he never did that in Pika and Kitwe.
So let me tell you one time, we got a hold of these magnetic earrings, right?
Yeah.
So me and my best friend Fred, when we were in high school, because now when I moved back to Zambia, I went to a school called Goka. And then in high school, I went to a school called Taonga Trust School. And we got
that one.
Yeah.
At NBC.
Yeah. So we got these earrings, right? And I wore one. So now my plan was, because I used to go by bus in high school. So my parents would never at the time I'm leaving school, because you could make your own breakfast, whatnot. And shout out to my mom. My mom taught me to cook when I was 12.
Wow.
So at age 12, you can cook for the whole family and would rotate with my brothers and sisters. Either you're washing dishes or you're cooking for everyone. So from age 12, I could cook for the family. So now in the morning, I'm making my breakfast and I'm eating my breakfast and I forgot that I'd put the magnetic earring, right? my dad came into the kitchen, did some things, looked at me. I forgot. And he just walked
Or you
out.
were only doing this when he's not around during that window.
So that was I was going to school, trying to look cool because he was at home, but I was just like, it was just like he wouldn't wake up that early that time, right? Because now at this moment he's back, he's no longer in government, he's my parents. So very early I'm going to school, and I remember I'll never forget. Flo, this is the kind of household I grew up in. My parents both come back in, my friend with their Bibles. What about Chungu? Now Shiva. Not to mention, yala kwenza mapempelo.
Out.
They started praying.
Deliverance prayers.
So me, I'm like, nah, I'm just in my head. I'm just like, I'm doing this to look cool, but I'm like, do not say anything, otherwise this will go longer than expected. So I remember for me, it was just like, I just wanted to do it as in cool. But one thing my dad always said is like, when you get your own house.
Okay, you are free to do what you want.
You will do these
Not
things.
under my roof.
Yes, and I remember the first time I went to my mom's house after I'd pierced my ears. My mom was like, yeah, I was like, guess who got their own house?
Oh, wow.
So
like a reminder of the rules.
Okay, I see you. So, I'm just like, look, sometimes we have to break a stereotype of what perception is, and we understand that as much as we cherish our traditions, where we're coming from, we have to decipher certain things. Like, okay, is this good for us? Is this good? Is this right? Where does it come from? Why do we believe this thing? Right? Of course, we don't do things with ignorance. And there's certain things which we learn over time, and it's like, it was a phase. I grew it. Now let me continue on. There's people who tell me like, oh, I got a tattoo. I regret getting a tattoo, but it was a time in my life. But then the question is now, do we hold them to that now that they're older? Now we can't give them a job, or you can't get married. Money nama tattoo, shan. So there's certain things in life where we just say, oh, okay, but where's your mind? Where's your heart? And so
at present.
Exactly. So I really appreciate
what you're saying also speaks to the idea of religion as well.
Yes.
How a lot of us are born into these families that subscribe to a particular religion.
Yeah.
But it still takes you yourself at a certain point in life to then get on that self-discovery journey, and also just to understand, what is this religion about? Is it really something that I personally believe in?
Yes.
And if you feel you can continue with your own conviction, then you continue, or you can forge your own path. Yeah, but a lot of people obviously have been in particular belief systems because they were born in a family that believed in that. But it takes you yourself also discovering and rediscovering, learning, unlearning, and relearning until you then are convinced that this is where I ought to be. So I'm agreeing with you when you talk about how certain things we would believe in when we were much younger, later we realize like, I think I can break this. This doesn't really make sense to me, for example,
Yeah. I'm still heavy on Jesus.
Yeah.
But for me, what I always find is there is that phase in people's lives where, why do I believe what I believe? I think that's a very heavy question, right? That everyone needs to ask themselves. Why do I believe what I believe? And when I went to college, the first time I went to college was at NIPA. And there's times when I remember I went to, a friend of mine would invite me to Yunza because they had this telescope, and then I love stargazing. And so the professor there, I think it was an atheist, and he kept on saying things that were anti-faith, anti-Christian.
Yeah.
And no one was challenged. Now, I wasn't one of his students. No one was saying anything. So then I started to challenge him.
Yeah.
And I said, so you actually believe that? And I'll be like, yeah.
I do.
And I'm standing, and I realized at that moment, that's how I realized, like, I think a lot of people lose their faith because they've never really asked themselves why they believe what they believe. Right?
Which is why it becomes very difficult for them to even defend what they believe in.
And so that's why you have people with mixed beliefs about, no, we shouldn't do this. Oh, even when people bring me up modern things of whether modern feminism or masculinity must be like this or different things, I always challenge them with history, with where did you get that mindset? How does that work for our culture? Tell me, who do you think came up with that idea, right? And so when people start talking, that's why I'm very big on what they call apologetics. Apologetics, that where you're able to defend your faith, even though historically writing. Do you understand that there's more writings about Jesus than there were about Julius Caesar?
Wow.
More people wrote historically.
Yeah.
We're not talking just from the Bible. Historically about Jesus and his existence than Julius Caesar. Wow. But you will have people say, Jesus never existed. But 10 years, 50, 70 years from now, someone will say, no, a Bob Marley existed. A thing existed, right? Because it's like, no, all these articles, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? So now imagine if I told you only 10 people wrote about Caesar or 14, and then there's like 26 writers about Jesus. So a lot of people don't really understand, why do I believe what I believe? So, I think that's the challenge of us as for me as a Christian, but also I feel
I'm a Christian too.
Yes,
so say
and that's exactly as believers. Yeah, and it's like it's many of us, like, we were taught by like you're saying, by this is who we are as a family, and it's a great foundation. But then at some point, it has to start making sense for you. It has to reach a point where just like, because it is a personal relationship with you and Christ. When people say, as Zambians, when some scandal happens, as Zambians, we have lost our way as a Christian. Yeah, we can see ourselves as a Christian nation, but when we stand before God, it's going to be a very personal thing. It's going to be so B-flow.
It's you now.
So that's the part I generally believe in what you're saying. And also, I challenge for anybody who's watching this is, why do you believe what you believe? And are you able to, what does it mean to you? And, for me, there's too many personal experiences with God coming through and doing stuff, and just like I said, like, imagine having a conversation with God in time of anger and him speaking. That thought of me loving you through him, like that, I've never thought about that. I'm not that deep. It's just like, that was
deep.
Yes. Yeah.
By the way, is it your parents that introduced you to God?
Yes. My mom led me to the Lord when I was young. I actually asked her, said, am I saved? Am I gonna go to heaven? My mom was like, would you like to be? I said yes. And so she prayed for me. She led me to the Lord. And then when I got into my teen years, I thought, okay, you know what? I'm starting to realize certain flaws about myself. Let me do this thing again.
Oh, you had to redo it.
The older you get, you're just like,
yeah.
Okay. Now I know why people go to hell.
Yeah. Nice one.
Yeah.
We take a short break. Welcome back to Dads Without Dads. My guest today is Abel Chungu Musuka, and I'm really enjoying this conversation. So I want you to just share a few stories, summarized ones, in terms of what you can remember, in terms of maybe how you played with your dad, or even just any conversation that still speaks to you today that you had with your dad.
Oh, yeah. There's one time, two come. One time about his childhood, which taught me a very important principle. So he used to like going to play where he grew up near the mines. And so they would dump a lot of mud somewhere. So him and his friend would go mudsliding, right? And then they would then walk on all fours and then get back, and then they would mudslide. That day, I think he said the mud was too fresh. So they went mudsliding, and then it turned into quicksand. Like they started sinking in.
What?
And they started calling for help. And no one was coming until this man randomly came on a bicycle. And he stopped, and that's how he pulled them out. And then the man looked at him and says, Iwe, and my dad ran. Ran. He got home. Didn't he find the man's bicycle? It's by the and let the beating happen. When the father,
That's a good story.
That's the thing about it, is what was so important is it was, you know what they say, it takes a community to raise a child.
Yeah.
That was what we grew up on. It was, that man didn't just say "Te woman" and went about his way. He was like, no, this boy needs to be corrected, and went to the parents. And I realized, like, even so many of us, why we're afraid of, acting funny around adults is because our parents had a network.
Yeah.
And I'm a woman. I don't know. So even you went playing somewhere, someone saw you and said, okay, don't worry. So I remember even I was like that, because there was time I moved in PHI and I had some fruits in my yard, and then these kids would kind of climb over and got. So one time I caught them and I said, I'm going to walk with you to your house. And I remember taking them. And I remember I took one kid all the way to his house. And I said, no, this kid was climbing over the wall fence and what. And the mother was like, thank you. Don't worry, I'll discipline him.
Oh.
Right? So there's certain things that I think we have lost. Is where are we as a community over our... Remember back in the day, our uncles never wanted to hang out in the same place as us. They would say things, you show up at like a place where even just that you think you have grown, you show up at... Once your uncle sees you, either they'll kick you out or they'll say,
hanging out at that place. Because they were like,
remember at Wakabudu. Yes, Wakabudu. And I still see there's men like that. But it's so in today's culture where we're like, people are hanging out at the same places. You find kids and adults and intermingling at the same drinking places, and everyone is chilling and what. I think that's where also we've lost that thing. I remember the first time I was watching ZNBC one time, and I saw a girl twerking in the Zambian music, like the first time.
Oh,
not the first thought that hit my head.
You remember, like, the first ZNBC?
Time? Yes, not even just ZNBC. The first time I was like, this girl doesn't have an uncle.
Oh. Okay.
That's the thing, because I grew up with that. Like, let's say you know what our nightmare is. Even when we started going clubbing, right? We'll be just like, just imagine you at Zenon, or I said, ZNBC Live. Because your parents are going to see it on
your own imagination. You're like, me at Alpha.
Even when you're just like, the worst thing you wanted was a camera. Now I'm still processing. People like, we're in the club. It's on the status. It's on shot.
Yeah.
I'm like, Bakas, man, like, we were just like, that was some low key stuff. You're in the club, no one should know.
Yeah.
But now it is. I feel like we've lost that thing of looking out for each other, right?
Yeah.
Keeping a certain level. Yes. Even my mom says things that we do today, it's no different from back in the day. Either people cooking up with sugar daddies, whatnot. But there was a certain...
whatever.
Exactly.
Everything was there, but sometimes we tend to think that when you are in this time...
Yes.
That whatever you're experiencing, you are the first to experience it.
Exactly.
And you start thinking, those are outdated, they're old school, they don't know.
Exactly. But I'll say this, maybe the best way I can say, pleasure was not a priority. Pleasure was a result of, we've worked hard, let's celebrate. We've worked hard. Vacation, we've worked hard, let's go on vacation. Not, I need a vacay. What do you do?
I just need it. What?
You live at home.
That's a good one.
I need a vacay. Why do you need a vacation? From what?
Yeah.
Someone who decides to go on vacation, my friend, has sealed 10 deals. What? Dad, Shan, hey, I've had the kids. Hey, finally,
they deserve a vacation to recuperate.
You know what I'm saying?
Unwind.
I pass a grade 9 1 hours. Hey, let's go on vacation. You know what I'm saying? People opened, that's why even you find people back in the day, bars mungand, and you find that certain drinks haven't been opened. They're waiting for a special occasion, someone's graduation, there was a sense of achievement for pleasure. You can only access pleasure when you've worked for it. Now pleasure is something that we just get on the fly. Every week, no, drinks are flowing. Why were they flowing? Why did you spend so much? You know what I'm saying? People then would spend so much. Oh, it's my daughter. You, before you've got a daughter. There's a thing whereby there's a tradition in the States where fathers pay for their daughter's wedding. So you one day you're gonna be like, it's my daughter's wedding. Even maybe I don't know if you drink. I don't think you do. I don't. But there's that thing of like, oh, it's my daughter's wedding. Today we're going. Let people, Even that's why I think when Jesus turned water into wine, he understood the value of a celebration. I think we've lost that. That's one thing, because we don't look out for it. Everything is to show and please, a lot of things. And that's not everybody. But I just feel like there's certain things where we're not looking out for each other. We're not, we see kids doing
No
stuff.
longer a village.
Yeah. I mean, we're not all perfect, but at the end of the day, the village factor is lost. You see someone getting randomly, child getting beaten or abused, you can't stop. Like I remember when we do street events,
people would rather take a video of whatever is happening instead of helping out.
Yeah, I've seen some crazy videos of kids doing stuff, even being interviewed. I saw some video. I couldn't even. I'm just like, this is not even worth reposting. Why? But you kids being asked vulgar questions. Hey, what bed style, Shan, what? You're like, these are kids. These are not even. These are teens. They should be in school. But these are questions they've got. Hey, they've now got camera phones and showing their stuff. And the first thing I'm thinking, like, my old school mind is like, where's her dad, uncle, auntie, like, where's everybody? Where's the community to come and like, you if you know what I'm saying? They would, even when you get caught out, like there's a sense of like where your family now hides you, to rebuild you, to strengthen you, to like, like no more social media, no what until you start showing some signs of maturity.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Responsibility.
But your family were the first image builders.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
True.
But now it's like, man, something happened. Someone's already back on socials 2 days later and everything. Yeah. And now they've got a fan base to validate them. I feel like it's there's a lot of things that are lost. I don't think they're coming back.
Yeah.
Because I think as we grow older, things change. Mm-hmm. But that's just part of me where there's things I remember.
Yeah.
Right?
Awesome.
And if anyone, and the thing is, back then, if anyone comes and knows anything or it is kind of what, it's because someone had to go looking. Right? People are very protective about their private life. People actually valued their private life.
Yeah. Now the private life is being videographed, photographed.
Like, exactly. So that's one memory I'll honestly say which my dad told me, which relates to modern things.
Right.
Right.
I love that.
Exactly.
Let's talk about you being a dad. Do you remember what was happening the very first time you heard the news, you got the news that you were about to become a father? And how did it feel?
Yeah.
Were you scared? Were you happy? Were you excited? Were you curious? Were you anxious? What was it?
I was actually, I was everything. Everything. I was everything. But I remember the birth of my firstborn son, and it was one of those things where we're at the hospital and they're like, oh no, the child is in distress, which I've got another opinion about that, especially with private hospitals. But the child is in distress and what and this, and I remember we both cried in the sense because we're just like, well, worried, like this was our firstborn son.
Yeah.
But he came out all right, and everything was good. And I remember even before he was born, I would always say, I always knew what I was gonna name my kids.
Yeah. Oh,
yes,
you had the names already.
I had the names, man. I had the names, and I always knew I was wanting to name them with Z's. It was just like I had already known, and so I'd always had this thing of like I had this thing in the back of my head, like I want my kid to think I'm a superhero. Like I just want to make sure that I show up for my kid. I just want my son to think I'm a superhero. And one moment happened. Him and I were taking a walk, and these new neighbors had just moved in, but I think they hadn't created a dog pen, but they had a lot of dogs. And worst case scenario happens. All the dogs come rushing out, and I'm with my son. And he must have been about maybe 6'5". And then they come rushing. And I remember at no point, Flo, like no point in my body did I feel any sense of fear. I was more angry.
Oh.
And I was trying to kick the dogs away from him. I remember a song, I even fell back and I got up and I started kicking these dogs in the face.
Wow.
And then the owner comes out and tries to get them back in. And
Now you were angry at the owner.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I didn't say anything. And I had a decision because I could see our house. We just started the walk. And I told my son, let's keep going. And we went for the walk. And we finished the walk. And because the thing is, I did not want him to be traumatized by fear. My biggest thing was, I don't want this boy to have a fear of dogs. So I just pretended like, let's just continue the walk like nothing happened.
It's amazing how you made that decision in a real short space of time.
And I brought him back, and then I went to the house. And now I gave that to the owner my tongue lash, and they're very apologetic. No, sorry. We're still setting up the dog pen. We didn't know the gate was slightly open and whatnot. So I'm just like, okay, cool. I said, nah. So that thing we dealt with. And I remember getting home, and he was telling his mom, he's like, Mom, Dad is a superhero. And I'm like, yeah, boy. Oh, I was like, it came 6 years late, but it finally arrived. Finally. So, but also one principle that I learned was the birth of my second born son. When he was coming in, a lot of people were telling us, oh, it's gonna be a girl. You're finally gonna get a girl. Oh, girl. Girl. And then
that's something you were looking forward to after having. I mean,
it was one of those things where we're just like, I'd always
balance.
I'll be very honest. At some point, I always wanted 3 girls, and I ended up with 3 boys. But I'll never change that with anything. And I'll remember, and this is the principle, and I'll say this to anybody who's having kids. When the doctor said, you're gonna have a boy, I said, oh. And then I was like, wait, why would I feel that way? And I had to rebuke myself and my spirit. Wow. Because I was like, this child is coming into the world, and they need to be prepared to be loved, to be taken care of, and to be appreciated. Ever since then, when I find people saying, no, I want a girl, I'm like, I get the preference. But no child should ever come into the world feeling like that's not what you wanted. Because on an economical level, it's school fees, guys.
Yeah, regardless.
You know what I'm saying? Food, everything is, whatever you buy to feeding a child is still
bills
feeding a child.
Bills will be bills.
Exactly. There's no feminine milk. No, my friend, it's milk. But also the thing is, I think when we get a gift of a child, I generally feel it's our job to love on them. And I believe and I learned that principle from God. It's God's only position is He wants to love on us.
Amazing.
He even everything He plans out, and when I think about, okay, what's my son going to do? I generally think God has a plan in the sense of excitement, right? I think the universe is created just for the joy of how do I create the perfect environment for my children.
Yeah.
And this is where I think I would like to encourage anybody who's having a child, just be prepared for anything, but be ready to love on. I think people want babies, but they're not ready to have an adult, a teenager, someone who challenges your authority, someone who questions. You know what I'm saying? Their child will grow. And if you just want to have a baby, then you're not ready. Wow. But and if you just, I want a girl, okay, so you can be dressing matching outfits. I'm like, it's not a doll. It is an actual living, breathing human being.
I really love how you're saying you had to rebuke yourself.
I had to.
Takes me back to a conversation I had with Augustine Lungu Jr. Mm-hmm. He says he heard those words from his wife. Like there was a whole speech that the wife gave to him to prepare him when he was mentioning what gender he would prefer, a girl or a boy and whatnot. And then she just told him to say, you know what?
Yeah.
There are people out there that are just looking for a child and they still don't have.
Exactly.
And you get this blessing that you're expecting a child. And so whether it's a boy or a girl, just be grateful. Yeah. So I love that when you talk about rebuking yourself.
Exactly, man. Yeah. I had to rebuke myself. And he's such an amazing boy. Such an amazing boy. So lovable, very engaging. And I'm just like, ish, man, I'd even be ashamed if you ever heard this story.
So I'm a girl dad, so I'm curious to know, how is it like being a boy dad? And how do you feel if one of your boys pulls up wearing earrings?
Oh man. I would, the thing is, I have seen boys, I don't know if it's the same with girls, boys watch you.
Wow.
Like closely. And they're just like everything you like. When I look at my kids, I'm like, yeah, that's me, and that's a part of me, and like they've just like decided to get what traits of me and a
Bits
bit
and
of
pieces
themselves.
of you,
But
and
I'm
then
like,
put it together.
yeah, I'm like, if my kid's not working out, that's because I was not working out.
Wow.
Then I had to take them to the gym because I'm like, oh man, I gotta. I remember my son once said to me, this is why I went back to the gym. My son, I asked my older son, I said, on a scale of 1 to 10, 100%, where do you think how do you think I perform as a dad? He's like, 97. I'm like, 97. So now you're worried about the 3%. I'm like, what's the 3%? It's like, you need to hit the gym, Dad. I'm like, oh, wow. Okay, we're gonna work on that 3%. So
wow.
And so that's
They're
the
so
fun
influential,
thing.
huh?
Oh man, but I also realize how much influence I have on them because they kind of like the same things. They'll ask me the latest things about football, things about comics, Marvel comics. Those are things I still like in my spare time. Like I'll follow what's happening in Marvel and whatever in DC. I'll tell them like, oh, do you know this? And they're like, what? And even just like books, I have this thing where I make them read a book, and that's the only way they get their allowance. So when they finish reading a book, they have to write me a report about the book. And then when they write a report, then they give
Being
me
intentional.
Exactly. So that's the only way they get an allowance, like money added to them. Yeah. But I also learned, funny enough, shout out, I did learn this principle from a friend. Now I don't even know if I should remember because it's not. He's now he's a very much political figure.
Okay.
He's very much a political. So I'll just leave.
Okay. I wish we could just credit him because
just credit Makebi Zulu. Yes.
Awesome.
And that's why it was just when he just had his firm. So him and I were good friends.
Yeah.
As well early on when he just had his firm. And when I learned that he had this principle where he would have his sons read books, and I'll be like, oh, okay, cool. And
that's a good principle.
Yeah, so I was like, oh yeah.
I'm definitely adopting it.
Yeah, so my boys read books, and I'll buy books for them, and they'll read them. And I'm like, okay, give me a report on that. Well, it's just like a small, short novel for their age, like they enjoy that. And so you asked me a question if they showed up. So I feel like it's the same thing. I would partially use who I am, but also the principle of it's even just with haircuts. I'm like, oh, is this acceptable at your school? Or it's not acceptable? Okay. I still have the fact that you are in a space of rules, right? I don't want my kid just going somewhere just looking like, oh, because he's my son. I'm like, oh, there's rules. There's those rules.
There's a time and place for everything also.
Exactly.
And also the rules in your house also apply. You are doing it because you're in your house. Remember the rules that your mom and dad said. Man. And when your mom finally found you and you said, oh, because I'm now in my own home.
Exactly. And which comes back to that thing of there has to be a reward for success. There is a reward for, oh, you got your own place. Oh, now you've succeeded, right? Because one of the things is, because my dad wanted me to do things like, do the traditional things of study economics and different things. I realized the path that I chose, I had no choice but to be the best at what I do. Like to do it really well. Because then you have to come back and say, you see this thing I'm passionate about? I'm actually really good at it. Yeah. And it's making sense and it works and different things. And even in his passing, that's why I have to be the best at what I do, because otherwise, I realize that the reason why parents, said, oh, no, be a doctor, be a shan, because they're also trying to secure our future. Yes. They're worried that, if my child doesn't...
Those are safety measures, safety nets that they're trying to create.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you have to, you are the best at what you do. And I think everyone, I understand the challenge. So with my sons, if they show up they want to do dreads or they want to do what, it's like, okay, cool. Show me your work. Show me why you deserve to have this. And I think that's one of the things we should hold our kids accountable to. Yeah.
Abel, you've been amazing.
Thank you, brother.
We will definitely need a part 2 so that we can even talk more. And I'm sure by the time we're having the part 2, there will be more developments in terms of your relationship with your kids. By the way, I've seen you play with your kids. Even when we've had these sporting events like soccer, you would come with them. and they're so united. They look like they are triplets or something.
Yeah.
You've got strong genes. They look like
That's
you,
right.
all of them. And I think
That's
even
it.
their names, all of them start with Z.
All of them start with a Z.
Yeah. No, and they're so cool. Like you can tell that there's good leadership here. Like someone has mentored them very, very well. So job well done, sir.
Thank
I
you.
know
Couldn't have
the
done it
job
alone.
is far from being done, but of
Yeah.
course,
Yeah.
so far so good, and you're
Yeah.
doing a great job. Keep it up. I love the fact that they talk about you being the chief priest of your family, or you being a leader in your family, because you are a leader already in many other spheres of life. But of course, you ought to translate even into how your family is also shaped. So the fact that your boys are well put together is a very, very good sign, and I pray that God gives you the grace to continue being a good leader.
Thank you. I think because they've also got present parents. You know what I'm saying? I think their mom has done an amazing job on how she comes through, and I think we've understood our roles in the kids' lives, and I think that's an amazing thing. And I think that's why I say, there's a lot of people who are like, well, I just want to have a baby, and I say like, nah, that thing is gonna need two people coming together, because there are moments where just like one person can't handle. And shout out to the people that have raised children alone. It should never be the standard, but for women who have raised kids alone, I give you grace. For men who have raised kids alone, I know men who have raised kids alone, and man, you so much grace. But I would always encourage people, like, raise kids together, even when you're in different, whether parents. Some people don't stick together, but be present.
Yes.
I would say I don't have respect for guys who don't look after their kids. I don't, whether in what way or capacity, do your best. Help financially, whatever you can.
Very true.
You know what I'm saying? Don't be, if I see you you at granddaddy's but you haven't bought diapers, my guy, I have no respect for you. So
I love that.
there are things, there are principles, and it's biblical.
Yeah.
Right? It is
and
biblical.
Also kids they're not the ones that made the choice.
Exactly.
That they want to be here.
Exactly.
You are the vessel that God used to bring them here, and it comes with the responsibility.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Relationships fail sometimes, but that doesn't mean that then if the relationship between a man and a woman fails, then
that's true.
You should also fail your children. You all have to take responsibility.
Exactly. And also I will say about this specific thing, there are people who will block another, no, don't be near my kids. And I get, maybe if there's cases of abuse or there's cases of just there's certain they're unique cases, right? But I generally feel like if there's a chance where in any way having more conversations with the children, more being there present and all those things, I think those things are very important. Because one day the child will ask. Don't mind that. I was trying to find this. Okay. But otherwise, that is one of those things I think as parents, we must be there. If you had a child and you had rejected that child, my G, go back and apologize and find a way to be part of that child's life.
It's never too late, huh?
Because one day, nowadays I hold my brother's, one of my brothers has a baby, and I'm thinking, when this child is my age, I'll be 80.
Imagine that.
Like, I'll be 80. I'll be the grandfather he needs to drive to the hospital, and Shani, you know what I'm saying? When you see these people, these uncles and aunts with this age, you're like, dang, they were our age.
Yeah.
They were our age. This Uncle Shani, now got the diabetes, Shani, these are the decisions they make because of like when you were present, you were there, you were caring, and everyone ages. So I think, people need to understand you're not going to be young forever. Like, value these kids, love on them, show them what to, and it'll be their turn.
Mayong papa na inenka ko papa.
Exactly.
There's another Bwembya saying ati kolwe wako tashani asabirwa n'abaana, something like that. Yeah, something to do with when you're no longer have the strength, it's the same kids that you took care of that will take care of you. Yeah. Thank you, Abel. You've been amazing once again.
Thank you.
You've been watching this great episode of Dads Without Dads with Abel Chungu Musuka. We've had a great conversation, and I've really, really enjoyed learning more about his journey, particularly how he related with his dad, and just learning more about his dad. I'm so interested, to learn more about the fathers that shaped the fathers that we have in this generation. And that's why I'm grateful for his presence today. Thanks to our production team, production manager, the Naveen Agency, our director, Big Man X from Ex-Boyfriend Innovations. The DOP today has been Prince Gift. Not forgetting our logistics manager, Mr. Dennis D2 Mulongoti in the building. See you on the next episode of Dads Without Dads. And remember to give us a like and some feedback on how you found the Abel Chungu Musuka conversation. We're out.